Sif's blood. Barely survived that encounter. I'll bring you a new transmission. Vode An.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Vode An. Today we are on episode 17 and we're going to go over Clone Wars Adventures Volume 8. Of course, these Clone Wars Adventures are an anthology, kind of anthology comic. Well, it literally is an anthology comic. During the Clone Wars, focusing on all kinds of different characters. Sort of in the style of the micro series. The Clone Wars Tartakovsky Marker series. It's in the same. Well, the art's inspired by it. I mean, it's not the same in a way, but it is inspired by it for sure, and it's very similar to it. I would say it's a little bit more simplistic in the comic book compared to I think the micro series is a little bit more complex. I don't say complex, but it's a little bit more refined in the show, if that makes sense. It is animation after all. But these are really, really good. These are very kiddie, not in an insulting way, but in a way that, hey, that they are for kids. But they're canon nonetheless. And these stories in this particular volume take place. These are the earliest stories. Some of the there's 4 stories in there. The Luminara story it at least takes place before the micro series because Barris is still a Padawan in it. The Orsing story that could kind of take place anywhere, couldn't it? I don't know.
No, it couldn't take place at just anywhere. Like this has to be at least like in this time frame.
Oh well, it does say in the Orsing story it's 3 months after Geonosis. So there is also that.
I mean, well, it's just like something big happens during the Clone Wars where it's like it couldn't take place just anywhere.
Got you. The Obi-Wan story takes place. Well, me and Tidus have a discussion on that. I think it takes place right before the Defense of Kamino. But it's again the same time frame.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say after. I mean, like on the timeline, I put afterwards.
Yeah, and then the last story is a battle droid story. That I don't know. I mean, that could take place anywhere.
Well, I mean, the ending is into the New Hope or
right.
The post Clone Wars.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly,
it's an Imperial era like story by the end of it.
Yep.
Yeah, but the whole snippets of the battle droids, like going back and forth, could be like anywhere. It could be like anywhere from first year to third year.
Yeah. The point I want to make is with these stories, we're gonna try to, we're putting Tidus put them in the best place that they fit. They may not all fit in that time frame, but most of them do. So, but anyway, so let me go ahead and give a little, very brief summary of each story. There's 4 stories. I think there's 4 in all of each volume. There's about 4 stories.
There was 3 stories in the first 2 volumes.
3 in the first 2. Okay, the others have 4. So as I said, there's a Luminara story. There's a Orsing story. There's a Obi-Wan story, and then there's a story about a random battle droid. The Luminara story. They're on this planet. Luminara is put into this like fight gladiator kind of ring thing, and she's trying to get information. In order to get the information, she has to survive these different beasts. So she fights a Wampa at first. Then she fights like a dinosaur creature, and then after that, she fights a droid. A big killer droid, whatever. Of course, she defeats them all, and she defeats the droid by taking a small pebble and just throwing it. Well, not pebble, but like a rock. It's a very small rock, and just throwing it into the visor of the droid. It was kind of funny. And of course, she ends up getting the information she needs. Meanwhile, Barris Offee is disguised as like this, bounty hunter type character or whatever. She's betting on all this, on these battles, with the intention of draining their bank accounts because she knows that she's betting against the Jedi. This she was betting for the Jedi, for Luminara. But anyway, so at the end, she gets her information, and they leave this hut who's running this operation broke. So that's the end of that story. The second story with Aura Singh, it's she goes to Nar Shaddaa. She meets up with a hut with apparently she had originally went to after she left the Jedi, I think, if I'm remembering it correctly. But this hut's trying to kill her, and at the end, she survives and then kills the hut. So pretty well. She went back to Nar Shaddaa because she was told there was a bounty there for a Jedi, but come to find out, she was the bounty. Because she was, of course, once a Jedi. So very simplistic Aura Singh story. The next story is It's an Obi-Wan story, and again, from my interpretation, it took place right before the Offensive Camino. Tidus has a different opinion, but it's around that same time either way. He goes to Camino, and he tells Tanwi that Jango's dead, and that's he tells him the Separatists. He tells her that Separatists are going to try to steal his Jango's gene sample on Camino. He then gets a holo message from Mace Windu informing him that there is like an assassin on the loose, and she's on Camino, and it's a Zeltron. It's an albino Zeltron named Viana DePau, who apparently has had history with Mace before. Mace tells Obi-Wan that. They basically fight Obi-Wan and Viana, and while they're fighting, we're getting sort of these flashbacks to Viana as a child, and we learn that she's the only albino Zeltron, and she is bullied for it. Meanwhile, of course, Obi-Wan outsmarts her. She fails to steal the gene sample, but we end up learning at the end that she actually ordered a clone of herself on Camino, and Obi-Wan allows the order to go through because he doesn't feel like she should be alone. That's we'll get into how I think that's my favorite of the three or the four. But the last story is it's about a battle droid who is damaged, and it hurts his programming, and he becomes more independent, and he ends up leaving the Separatists. He deserts, and a super battle droid follows him, trying to prevent him. They both end up getting they both fall off a cliff, and the battle droid says, the super battle droid rather, if you don't go back to the Separatists or the Trade Federation, then your battery is going to run out eventually and you'll die. And the battle droid's like, you know what, that's better than fighting for the Separatists, or just fighting, period. So he ends up going at a tree, sitting down at the tree, and of course his battery dies. And at the end of the story, which it's implied, it says some years later, it's implied to be after the Clone Wars. He's found by some inhabitants of the planet, and he's sort of repurposed to work as like a farm droid. So that's the four stories. They're all very short, of course. They're not very serious, I wouldn't say. But they're all four really, really good stories. I'll go ahead and give my overall thoughts here real quick, and then I'll let you guys give your thoughts. As I said, the Obi-Wan story I think was my favorite. I think there's just a lot of character, I think, in the story. The Obi-Wan and Viana had a lot of I won't say chemistry, but they're I think opposition to each other is kind of what gave Viana some character, and we got to learn about her and that she is in the position as a bounty hunter because she had a really rough childhood, and which I think is interesting. Um, but in Obi-Wan at the end saying, no one should be alone, I think is a really good message. All four of these stories have good messages for kids, lesson, teachings or whatever, life teachings, life lessons. That's what I'm looking for. That I think are really, really good. And so yeah, that was my favorite. The other stories, the Luminar story, I thought was more of a humor story. I thought that was pretty good. Luminar and Barris, awesome duo, of course. The Aura Singh story was probably my least favorite. I think I just didn't really connect with it as much. Good story, fun read, but it is what it is. I didn't really care for it that much, but it was okay. And then the last story, the Battle Droid story, was also very good. Very, very unique story. You really don't get Battle Droid stories ever in EU and new canon, to be honest with you. So, but I thought that was pretty good. It was a very interesting take. Before I let this up, I do want to tell you guys who wrote each story and did the artwork, because I do think that's very important to you guys, that we know that and acknowledge these people who are doing this. The first story, the what's it called? The Luminar story was the script and the art was written by the Philback brothers. The next story, the Aura Singh story, was done by Chris Avalon, which is weird because, yeah, I don't know why it was my least favorite, because Chris Avalon's he's great. Of course, he's the KOTOR writer, if you don't know. Art by the Philback brothers. The Obi-Wan story is written by Jason Hall. Art by Ethan Beavers. And the last story is written by Jeremy Barlow, who is also a relatively well-known person in the EU world. And art also by the Philback brothers. So that's all I've got. Overall, very, very, very good. The art's great also. It looks just, well, not, like I said earlier, it's not just like the micro series, but it emulates it very, very well. So that's all I've got. Ken, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I don't got many thoughts, but I'll give like a brief for each. The Luminar story is just like, it's not that it's bad. It's just like I don't have a lot to say about it. It's just okay. They're on a mission and they outsmart this hut. They take all his money and they get some plans. Like the Confederacy's doing, they get some operational plans and they use that and they get out of there. Good old shebang.
Yep.
I'm probably gonna go out of order because I have more thoughts on the droids and the Zeltron story. But I mean, like Lance said, all four stories have a good like message to them. But the other droid story, again, to reiterate, Lance, like you don't see battle droid like stories about all that much. Like they're not much of a thing in either canon. But I think that like a reason I like it so much is because like the potential to continue that story, you could just have a battle droid exploring its own individuality, develops a personality, has its own quirks. Could make for a good Tales comic, honestly. Continuing the Adventures comic and some Tales series, like 2 issues. And I think that would be interesting. So it's the potential for this story, but it's a nice little like the message is like die free than rather live as a slave. Rather like just die a free droid, living as a farmer. But that was a good story. The Aura Singh story, message was just like fuck around, find out, and well, the Hutt certainly fucked around, found out that you don't fuck with Aura Singh. But it was kind of a whatever story. It didn't like do much aside from like kind of reinforce her reputation as a badass assassin. But don't got much to say about that one. And the Zeltron story, I thought was interesting because you have every few like pages you have little blurbs about like the Zeltron as a species, and the concept that if like the species doesn't get like the stimulation that they need to be like happy and like feel pleasure, that they become like aggressive is interesting because like you have the potential for a story where like you just have a bunch of fucking Zeltron like being abused and like being used as like weapons or like slaves because they're being denied like their species like needs and like instincts. Like it'd be like it's an interesting potential. I don't know if anything gets done with it in other material, but it's a cool concept. And the whole message of her like Obi-Wan again showing his like his compassion that he's known for. And he's like, "Oh, let her have the clone. I don't want her to be lonely." It was like the whole her whole backstory was this kind of like sweet, not like oh she's like being like made fun of. It's just like all that shit, all that she had to go through, and like she's being like a mercenary, being like an assassin working for the Separatists, but all of that she just wants something for herself so she can be happy, and it's just Obi-Wan at the end shows his compassion, and it was just kind of sweet to see. So all in all, I think all four of the stories are good, and I think they're worth a read. So those are my thoughts.
Awesome. Tidus?
This is probably still one of my favorites in the whole series of adventures. The Vienna de Pau story and the Orsing story are probably my favorites in this alone, and also the series in general. I think the action for the Luminara story is probably one of the best displays of how well the cartooning and paneling is. Like it's goofy, it offers goofy fun, but it's still like serious action that kind of mirrors the manga series. And it also just shows like how capable, like a Jedi Master really is without like using the Force or a lightsaber. It's just like her wits and literally just using physics.
Yep.
I do think it's a little bit funny though, and this is not really related to the comic, but like in the versus community for Star Wars, like they always use this when talking about Luminar because she literally lifts like a fucking wampa over her head, like not necessarily like no effort, but she does like lift the whole goddamn wampa. That's bigger than her, much bigger than her overhead.
And they cite that in versus battles. That story.
Like seriously, they do.
It would make sense though. It's a little goofy, but I mean, I guess if they got to use it.
It emulates the micro series. The micro series was because of its artwork or its animation. It was exaggerated.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't think that like
I don't know
necessarily exaggerated.
That's not really how like versus debating or versus like power scaling like works for like these type of things. It's kind of like a game for like whatever. Like it doesn't really matter if like the mediums don't really conflict or fit together because like one's stylized, one's exaggerated, one's not. It's just kind of like the same Luke from like NGO. Say if he was in like a type of story like this where they was doing some insane exaggerated cartoony shit, they would count that as the same Luke as a feat.
Yeah,
this is getting off topic entirely, but I'm just saying like when it comes to power scaling versus debating, it doesn't really matter like what type of mode it comes in. Like they consider like all part like the same thing. It's like I think it's like all fair.
Well, that's why versus debates are stupid. Anyway, continue.
I mean, no shit, it's stupid. It's literally the same stuff that we do on a playground as kids, dog. It's like you're saying, like, no, my character's stronger. No, your character's stronger. It's like,
literally.
It's like none of it really matters. There's no internal logic of who's stronger than who. Anyway, the Laura Singh story is kind of mix everything I like about her. There's a little bit of her character flaws being addressed by the Hut, and she kind of just like ignores it. And she just like whoops her ass because the Hut does point out that like she's just kind of like lashing out, and she's like afraid. And I think this is kind of like something that, and this did come out after the Jedi Ayla Secure issue, which without spoilers, we do get a conclusion to the Dark Woman and Aura Singh's story in that comic, and that's kind of like where more of Aura Singh's like psychological background kind of gets explored too. So I think that this is kind of like piggybacking off of that. And now the panel here is just great. I mean, like it's not like a super narrative intense story, but I think it's a pretty great action story. I'm not gonna lie to you and say it's not. I think the best use of paneling is when the sniper shot is like, the sniper's trying to train on or sing, and it's like with each panel is sights getting, can like say like her leg or hip, the fucking Charger fan in a way. And by the time he actually makes it onto her head, it's like she's already drawn a sniper on him, and she's pulled the trigger and just blows him to smithereens. Like I think that's just badass to me.
Yeah, that's a badass panel. Kind of reminded me of the Sniper Elite games where you're having sniper duels.
No, it's great. I mean, like there's no like Star Wars comic paneling like quite like that. So
yeah,
I think it's a kick ass story, and plus I think the floating mines that
that was fucking cool.
The floating mines was kind of funny because I forget what they were called. They were called some type of like caution mines or some shit, and it's like the joke of it was that they literally just said, "Help! I'm not a mine, please. Please don't push me. I'm not a mine. I don't explode, please." And it's like they just fucking explode the guy that's like underneath him. Like I just thought it was like funny, but no, it's good action done. Like the dude really think like he was gonna get a fucking jump on her. Like he's like, I'm gonna fill the chamber of fucking gas. She can't get out with this one.
Or a saying wading through fucking
and
shit.
it's just kind of just like, man, what made you think like she was gonna die today? And it's like because especially with the fact like this guy's trained her. So if he paid and pitched into like being one of Crumler's to help train her. And she has Jedi training on top of that. It's like, why do you think he would be able to like successfully kill her?
Yeah, it's like he just fucked around and just fucked around and found out.
Well, I don't even know if it was like fucking around and finding out. It's just kind of just like it, like almost like stupidity. Like I don't know, because if you've invested like the top of the line in Zadi, assassins to train this bitch and like everything. Like, she's got like the whole works. Why would you then think you can kill her just simply by flooding the room with gas? Like, I don't understand that shit. Even with the goons, like why is it like basic crooks be able to say that that's trained by like Anzadi? I don't get that.
Yep.
So that HUD's just stupid. Like he was asking for it.
He's fucking dumbass HUD.
Yeah, he was fucking stupid.
Typical HUD. Typical
HUD.
Typical greenie.
Drooling out the mouth. Fucking like pouring
big
credits.
Fat green slug.
A green slug.
The slob strikes again.
Slobs. All right.
Yeah.
But
no king in this.
I was gonna say though, second, because I'm going in at least in sequential order of the stories. But the Vienna DePaul story is seriously one of my top 10 Star Wars comics, and it's simply because like who she is as a character and like what themes it kind of explores. I do want to say that she first appeared in Star Wars Tales in an issue where she took multiple infants from the Jedi Temple because she believes firmly in like individuality and that they belong with their family. And she was kind of like implying that like once a Jedi take them inside the temple, that they kind of lose a sense of self, where it's just kind of like they become like a collective. They don't really have like an identity. And that's not to say that's true, because obviously Jedi characters have individual identities beyond being just a Jedi. But it's kind of like her belief, and it kind of gets like elaborate on why she thinks all that and why she emphasizes individuality in this comic. But she basically also thinks like deep down they'll be lonely. Walking through the halls as like a Jedi, like you'll be lonely by yourself because you don't have like contact to your family. You don't have like any like friends from your home world. It's like I don't know. She just thinks that would be a lonely existence, and like the Jedi pretend themselves acting like it's not lonely. May stops her and like he gets himself like gets a message at the end of the comic from his parents on a holo device saying that they want to see him, and it also kind of like ties in back to what I just said. Mace Windu in the story, at least he does kind of like he never met his parents, but he does kind of like miss them for whatever reason, But this comic also raised some continuity issues, and I'm talking about the Tales story, of course. But that one, it raised some continuity issues because Mace was never conscious to know his family, much less recognizing their name or contact. And Shatterpoint kind of explores that. The story is dubious you can because it proves that this part of it did happen. Like part of the story, I think happened. The whole stuff with the Mace Windu ending, that probably did not happen. That's probably not canon. But I do love this character so much because it explores an irony found in her species. Zeltrons are known for being empathetic and unconditionally loving. Yet they shun her because she just looks different. She has no one to offer her love, and she has no one to express love for. And the flashbacks panels work so well, and the panels describe when Zeltrons don't have an outlet for love, they become violent. And she shatters her reflection. I just think that kind of like emotional hits. For her, it's a job, and realistically, it was kind of self-serving. But Obi-Wan not knowing what she did with the material or the personal stakes for alarming, she's going to be apprehended. It sounds like he's kind of taking away the one thing from her that she can't afford to lose. I think the visual storytelling kind of hones in on that. It shows like her younger face running with mascara in tandem with like her, saddened expression in the rain. And it's not like they just write her off as a villain because because ultimately the story was about the CIS wanted to sabotage the clone tanks. But the thing is that she didn't even go through the job. She jeopardized Dooku. She ignored her orders and placed a clone for herself.
Yep.
So it literally worked against them. And Obi-Wan kept the order. But it's like, it's kind of sad because her story ends here. Jason Hall, the writer, made her in the Tales issue. And in a way, she was hurt. Like that was like, Jason Hall's character. And for whatever reason, he never came back and did anything with her. But for a story as heartfelt as that, maybe it doesn't need a last word. I think that this kind of serves as like, this could be an end. I don't think it needs like a last hoorah or anything like that.
Yeah, once she gets her clone, she stopped bounty hunting.
Yeah, she just settles down. She settles down on some planet and just tries to be happy.
I mean, yeah, that could be a possible ending for it. I just don't think we don't have to see it. We can imagine how it plays out.
It's kind of like the Battle Droid story, like I was saying, like make that like a Tales comic. I mean, or we could just imagine like that.
I think like adding words to it and trying to like pit like a picture to it, it does kind of kill like the mystique of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't think not every like cliffhanger does need like an elaboration or like a last word.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some stories should just be left that way.
Just leave them to the imagination.
I mean, but I was gonna say about the droid story because those are all my thoughts on the Vienna department. But seriously, that was one of my top 10 Star Wars comics all the time. The droid story, I'd say, is great too. I don't really have too much to say on it because like it's I don't know. When I read it, I don't know. There's something I was thinking about, but I just really just couldn't think about it. I was writing all of it out, like just my thoughts on it. He just kind of like tries to try something greater, and he gets it, but he shuts down before he really gets to enjoy his time of awareness. And I think it's great. Not it's great, but I think it's pretty cool that the grappler B2 droids in Revenge of the Sith video game, that's the B2 that's chasing after the B1. I don't know if y'all picked it up. If you
I saw that. I was like, oh, it's the battle droids.
Yeah, that's
missions on the invisible hand.
That's a grappler droid. Mm-hmm. But also I do want to I do want to note that the B2 droid, he kind of attained cognizance too, because when he got knocked out, he was kind of like aware of the futility of like their existence. You want to be like go away. Like I just like became aware too. And as soon as like he gains like that cognizance, he just dies.
He dies.
His whole thing just goes out. So it's like it's not just like a one-time situation for this one battle droid, but it happened to him too. I mean, hell, for the Clone Wars itself, I mean, it probably happened a bunch because I remember the Essential Guide to Warfare. It wrote like a chapter on this. Now, it wasn't really much of a chapter. It was more like a page or so. But it was a thing about, the topic of battle droids. And it was trying to reconcile like the old movie droids and the TCW battle droids, the ones that are more like quirky and comedic and jokey. And it just said to like, sometimes their programming is faulty and, they come out with the production line so quickly, they just come out with quirks like that. Some of them are more by the book, like 9 from Phantom Menace. And some are more goofy, like the ones from TCW, or some just, gain awareness and just decide to leave, like this one.
I think that speaks like the nature of war. And I guess you can go on a little like tangent, like Germany at the end of the World War II.
All right, man.
I mean, like,
oh my god.
We're not talking about Nazi Germany, dude.
Well, like any country at the end of any war, you just gotta make do with what you have. Just sending out like untrained. So I mean, like,
this is about the beginning of the war, though, Ken. I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm meaning. It's like, I was just referencing the article or the chapter, whatever.
Yeah.
I was referencing to say that, like, it does try to like detail like how does this fit in, and I was going off on that because I was saying this is probably not a first time occurrence, because if this happened in both the B1 and the B2 in his last moments of awareness, it probably happened all over the Clone Wars. And then the Central Guide of Warfare, in a way, not really explicitly confirms it, but it kind of does, in a sense. We're saying that battle droids come out in multiple different types of ways. It's kind of like how the Central Guide of Warfare also it doesn't really do this like a ton, but it does like kind of like describe how, like, there's like some clones that are more like how they were before. There's more clones that are kind of like D. Bradley Baker, TCW. It's trying to just reconcile the contrasting nature of all these things, and how that, like, multiple of these occurrences happen across the galaxy. So that's just kind of what I'm saying with the droid. Is like, there is the dumb droids, the ones that are just by the book, and ones that they just kind of just run away. Like they become aware of like what's going on and just don't want it.
Well, that's the whole reason I made the parallel. It's just like the nature of, like, you just need soldiers on the front line, no matter how they come out. Like, you're just making them so fast. If they're quirky, they're quirky.
Well, I mean, I think
it's not necessarily the end of the war. It's just like you need bodies on the front line. That's just the nature of it. Like, no matter how you train them, no matter how they end up, you just need them to fight.
I think I kind of get what you mean, but I think your parallel would need like more explanation, because you're talking about human beings versus like manufactured droids that have like directives. Like, I mean, that's like the whole thing of like this, where it's like, these are droids you're talking about. These are not real people. They are pre-made, like they have like directives that are supposed to follow. But because there's a glitch in systems and glitches in machines, that's why they're not all the same. Like, I wouldn't imagine that it's like the same thing for like human soldiers being like thrown into like, like a spinning fan,
Yeah.
So that's why I was kind of like, I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just
I
just mean like your parallel was like throwing me off.
Yeah. It's more so like indoctrination, and like, I mean, I know it's, again, you're comparing like organics to like metal, but like you indoctrinate someone so much they basically become a robot. Like, it can get to that point, but sometimes it doesn't fully stick, and then they end up having like quirks when they come out. Like, you brainwash someone so hard. Like, I guess the First Order is a better example. Them using like child soldiers from birth and training them to be obedient, and then they end up having like quirks or like they cracks in the system. That's a better example.
I mean, I suppose I don't really care or know enough about the First Order to say like that does fit. I don't know.
Empire ripoff. There we go.
That's Imperial Remnant ripoff, more like it.
The Remnant would demolish the First Order, make them.
The Remnant has.
I mean, man, it's neither here nor there though. They're human beings. Like we're talking about human beings like following orders and breaking from like regimes and indoctrination. But that's not literally the same as like you're made in a fucking factory and like you're programmed for like set things that you exist for. That's not the same thing. Like, I don't know, Ken. Like, I mean, I get what you're saying, like, in broad strokes, but I don't really get what you mean.
I think it's better served, maybe in a different story. I can work on like a better point.
I mean, yeah, like
maybe Republic Commando.
I could buy what you're saying. If you're talking about like clone troopers. I think that's like more. That's more sound. I think we're talking about clones. But if we're talking about like droids, that's different. That's a different ballpark.
Yeah,
you're not really humans. They don't mentally function like humans.
Yeah, but like I guess with clones, like organic clones, you could just imprint. I think that's a whole conversation for like Republic Commando novels. Like, we can save that.
Yeah,
put it on the show.
I mean, yeah, the topic of indoctrination, like that works. That does come up in the Republic Commando novel. So I say if you do have a point about that, I'd say it probably better used there than talking about droids.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I mean, the bottom line of it is I just think that I thought it was interesting how this is not just a one-time thing. It implies that this happens a bunch of times. We just don't get stories about battle droids to like see all the times like they just defect and just kind of just mosey off.
The only canon one I can think of.
Well, hold on, bro.
Sorry if I cut you off.
I was just saying, like, the implication of it just implies that it happens a bunch of times. But we're saying
the whole only canon like droid I can think is from Outlaws, the commando droid. The only case I can think of. It's like a droid that's like has its own like personality and like own like it's been cut off from like the rest of the collective.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
We don't know a damn thing about.
I don't know anything about that, Ken.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about like the EU, bro. I'm just saying like there's no like we don't. It's an implied thing. It's implied lore, but we don't have any focus on droids because they're the bad guys, And at that, there's not really much you can do with like a droid story. To be frank, I don't think many people will be interested in reading a novel about droids. So I just think like it's an interesting implication because it's something more to think about that we can't see. I mean, like you were saying about the ending, whereas better off that we just kind of like imagine what plays out next, and we can also imagine what happens with droids across the galaxy. That's all I meant.
All right, I get you.
But all in all, those are my thoughts on all the stories.
Well, I think that's all we've got. These are these are very short, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. But they're great. These are great stories. These are classic. This is what I love about the EU. Now, what I will mention, and me and Tidus have talked about this before. This is not multimedia project. I don't think people remember that. These came out in 2007.
Yep.
Well, starting in 2007. So, now they are in complete continuity with what happened in the multimedia project, and they wanted to be. They tried to be, of course, but it technically is not multimedia project. Same with Republic Commando. So I do want to kind of mention that, because I feel like a lot of people lump it all with it. No, the multimedia project was just the 3 years between 2002 and 2005, which is when, of course, Attack of the Clones, and those are the respective release dates between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So it's important to remember that, because there's a lot of EU fans out there that don't remember that. They either don't remember it or don't know.
Or don't care.
or don't care. There's also that, I guess.
They don't give a shit.
I didn't even know that. And the reason why I assume these are multimedia project is, one, it uses the multimedia project logo, that Clone Wars logo, and it's a tie into the micro series, which is a technically multimedia project. So, but yeah, they're not. So, which I think is interesting. So that's how we're going to be able to see, like, I know in future ones we're going to see Clone Commandos and Clone Wars Adventures. So, because remember, Republic Commando didn't come out until, what was it, 2006, I think, 2005.
The game didn't come out 2005.
Yeah,
like only a few months like before Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and then the novels came out later. So, that's how we're able to see that. Because again, Clone Commandos are technically not really a part of the multimedia project. They're mentioned prior, but we don't know anything about them until.
Aren't they in like one comic or so?
No, they're only in these Clone Wars Adventures comics. I was talking about this with Lance in the chat, but they do technically. I mean, they're in Attack of the Clones, because there's a scene with the commander who says, "I have 5 commando units ready for you, Master Yoda," or whatever the fuck he says. And they are in Cess's Deception. Like the character Jango Tat, he leads a squad of clone commandos. But it's like the lore was so underbaked at the time, where it's like clone commandos from Cess's Deception are not the same clone commandos as in like Hard Contact. Because for reference, Jango Tat is a fucking ARC trooper, and Karen Travis makes it pretty. And this is a little bit of a spoiler, but not a big one. But Karen Travis explains that ARC troopers don't like clone commandos. They don't work together.
Yep.
That sounds like an
I did
inter-service
know- I did
rivalry to
know
me. That's something we can definitely talk about in Republic Commando.
Yep.
If they have that in those books, I hope the inter-service rivalry is always fun to talk about. How our U.S. military works and how different branches fucking like to measure each other's, you know what, in contests because
Yep.
there's the egos, clash of egos. Marines, the Crayon Eaters, and the Rangers. That's a whole different discussion about the different branches of the military. We can save that for the clone commando novels.
Yep.
But anyways, I'm getting off topic.
But yeah, I did want to add that because I do think it is relevant. Because we're going to be seeing stuff in these comics that were not a part of the multimedia project, and well, that's why, because they came out afterwards. Which I think is kind of a benefit because yeah, it's able to kind of take Clone Commandos and at least make it look like they were. Because again, this feels like multimedia project.
Yeah.
It feels like it.
It does.
Absolutely. But
I
it's
mean,
not.
that's what we also talk about. You know, when you're reading a chronological sequence, like you don't even really realize it's not.
Right. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. So
Yeah, it's seamless. It's seamless.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see Clone Commandos and them at least feel like they're involved in the multimedia project. So that's I think all we've got though. Gentlemen, do you guys want to add anything else?
No, I think I'm done. My thoughts.
I do have one comment, and it's about next episode. Next episode, of course, we are doing the next volume 9.
Right.
But I told us to Ken, you can check the timeline too, Lance. But I had added the first issue of the HoloNet News because although it's not a story, it is part of the multimedia project. And I do think it's worth at least reading because it's some interesting lore in there.
Okay. Well, yeah, so we'll read that and Clone Wars Adventures Volume 9. So next episode. And then after that, we're going to do Boba Fett Hunted. And then after that, we'll get to Hard Contact. Finally, we're going to get back to another novel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sick and tired of these damn comic books. I'm just kidding.
These damn comics.
These damn comics. I want
reading comics again, eh?
Badass comics.
Comics again, eh?
Hey.
Anyway, that's our thoughts. These are great. This is a great story. These are great stories. So we'll see you guys next time, I guess. So thank you guys very much for watching, and may the force be with you.
Always.
Peace.
Always.